The Chinese city of Wuhan is shaking off its COVID stigma to position itself as a leader in smart car technology. But its experiment with driverless taxis is also putting thousands of jobs at risk. Take a look at this video taken by our colleague, our China government reporter Colum Murphy, who's been taken for a ride in one of the Baidu vehicles. In fact, Colum, who shot this video, as we mentioned, joins us, in fact, right now to tell us Colum, how was the experience?
So there was like some initial hitches just trying to get a car in the first place. I mean, it does have an app, but there were restrictions on foreigners using it. But once I got over that and secured a car, it was a fairly smooth ride. I will say I was a little bit apprehensive. And, you know, the streets of Wuhan in particular are not exactly the most conducive to driverless taxis, because it's diverse and spread city. Traffic congestion is heavy. Driving culture is a little bit unorthodox, shall we say. So, yeah, I mean, overall it was a little bit daunting, but then as you get used to it, you settle in, you start to sit back and enjoy the ride.
What does this tell you about this race for driverless tech between the U.S. and China? Who's really leading right now? Is it really China?
Right. So it's a little bit hard to put a finger on it, because if you look at technology alone, you could probably say that the U.S. Does have a bit of a lead insofar as some of the services have been rolled out there earlier. But when you talk about actually rolling it out in a way that's integrated into people's lives, and also the regulatory framework that's in place, or the signaling, at least from the top government, the central government here, Xi Jinping, clearly indicating that, you know, high value add technology is the way to go. So that gives investors and entrepreneurs a sort of assurance, if you will, that this is definitely something that China is betting on, and therefore they are really sort of pulling out all the stops to make sure that they can get this happening as soon as possible.
Well, what's the sentiment among users, particularly residents, Colum?
Right. So as I mentioned, it's like, you know, it's quite has a history of congestion in Wuhan, although it has improved in recent years because of subways and so on and so forth. But yeah, there's a complaint from residents that the car can drive a little bit too cautiously. It's a little bit too slow, and it's even earned a nickname amongst them in Wuhan dialect, calling it sort of like a stupid or amiable kind of idiot, if you will. So, you know, there is pushback on congestion, but more importantly, there is also fears about jobs, right? Because, you know, AI taking jobs. I mean, it's already happening, as we know. People are being replaced, but what's different here is that this is very much visible. You can literally see it driving on the streets. And so, of course, there's concern that people like taxi drivers or ride-hailing services like Didi, you know, the people that work for those industries might end up being squeezed out of the job market. So that's definitely a concern that's been raised in parallel to the excitement about, you know, seeing this actually happening on the streets.